All right. We're talking about innate immunity. It's non-specific. These cells and proteins and barriers just prevent anything that doesn't belong in the body from getting in the body. And if it is in the body, then it needs to die. So we just talked about different types of cells, mostly phagocytes, but you also have proteins that are released by cells that also help defend your body from random things that don't belong. And so the complement system is just a whole bunch of different proteins that can do anything from they kind of work together and make holes in cell membranes, or they can help stimulate inflammation, which we're about to get to, or they can just serve as a little marker um, for phagocytes to come and stimulate them to eat whatever cell that protein has latched onto. But again, these are proteins. They're smaller than cells. They're made by cells, so they're not on that same level as your phagocytes. Interferons are proteins that can be released by any of your cells in your body that, if they've been infected by a bacteria, then they release these interferons, these proteins that go to cells that are nearby and say, hey, there's a bacteria in the neighborhood. You might want to beef up your defenses. And so cells have, like gates they can close or walls they can put up that prevent viruses from getting inside. And, it also prevents other things from getting inside. But when you're under attack, you got to do what you got to do. So interferons are just a way that cells can communicate with each other. The inflammatory response is just a way that your body responds to an infection. So there are these cells that are just under your skin called mast cells, and they release a protein called histamine. You may have heard of antihistamines. They're a drug that reduces runny nose, kind of allergies, that kind of stuff. Well, antihistamines block histamines. So histamines cause your capillaries to dilate. Your capillaries get bigger, and so more white blood cells can leak out. More fluid can come into the area, so it's going to cause swelling. Notice that in the place where there was damage, the skin starts to get, kind of bigger. So fluid is leaking in there. White blood cells are getting in there. The complement proteins, all these things are attracted to histamine. And so that's going to help you fight all these little bacteria and, eat them up and kill them. But as you increase fluid and, your blood is slightly warmer than your body temperature, so that increases temperature and it increases redness. So when you get infections, they tend to be red and hot, and that's called inflammation. So that's an inflammatory response. All right, lastly, we have natural killer cells, which kind of roam around the body and look for those self proteins, those antigens, the MHCs, on other cells. And as long as you have one, as long as you have your ID, then they leave you alone. And so this cell has its MHCs, and it inhibits the natural killer cell from doing what it does. This cell does not have its MHCs. So this is like a cancer cell that's not making its own antigens anymore. And so that activates the killer cell, and it releases these chemicals that cause the tumor cell to kill itself. This one has the MHCs, but it also has some of these stress proteins that say, hey, I'm having trouble, maybe I should die. And so the natural killer cell releases these chemicals that causes that cell to kind of pop. It's called apoptosis. So those are your innate defenses. They're not specific. And they help protect you from a wide range of pathogens.